Started in 2021 building in Solana, and it's funny seeing people freak out. We saw the crash of FTX, and so it's like this is yet another cycle. I don't think it's ever dead. I think a lot of the grifters are gone. It's going to take somebody really kind of cracking the code, a smart team, a small team, not a $800 million VC-backed team. But I'm not like a hardcore business guy. I'm a builder. That's my favorite part. It's hard. I mean, this industry in Web3 is just you can easily get blinded because you get a bunch of users, but often they are going to jump to the next thing. They're speculators. Or were those real people? I had 20,000 people show up on my site yesterday. That like capturing of this big audience is new, and I don't think anyone's really figured it out.
All right, we're live at the Solana Creator House, and we got another guest. I'm excited to deep dive into what's happening at Photo Finish. These guys have been building for years in this space. They have had tremendous success. The things that I'm seeing, the things that I'm hearing, I was like, hey, I gotta get this guy down here. I gotta get Ian. I was hunting him down for the past couple days. He was meeting after meeting. He's like, Jorge, I'm stuck here, I'm stuck there. And I was like, you know what, Ian? I was like, you're not getting away today. I know you're leaving today. And I was like, I just need 30 minutes of your time. Ian, give us the introduction. Give us the 30-second. What did you do before Web3 gaming?
I've been in the game industry forever, man. It's crazy. It's dating myself, but 25 years now. So this is the 25th year of GDC and the 25th year that I've been in the game industry. But I started as a QA tester on the Madden franchise. So I was a sophomore in college, dropped out of college to become a full-time game tester, and then worked my way up and worked at EA Sports for like 12 years. And that led to where I am today.
How did you fall into the rabbit hole of Web3 gaming?
That's a great question because, what am I doing here? It's just, I think I've always been interested in new and niche ideas. And so I was pretty early into casual games and mobile games. And so having the freedom with my own studio, we've always been kind of indie and small. We had that ability to try new things. And when we saw the success of Top Shot and sort of a little bit of that traction happening around games and Web3, it was like, well, we have these horse racing games. We've got a great IP that we've sort of already built. What if we tried bringing that into this Web3 world? And then it's been, 3 years of manic building since.
Man, well, first of all, what a resume, stacked resume. Yeah. I always get excited when I ask that question because to me, I always look to find founders that have the experience in this, right? Because it's so important for those that, especially in this space, as there's more meta gamers, right? They want to make sure that they are aligning themselves with their values or how they look at the market. And for me, it's very important to make sure that I know who's behind the project. Do they know what they're doing? Do they know how to build a game? Do they understand business? Hey, how does money work, right? Because, man, there's so many times where I'm like, hey, is there a CFO? And they're like, yeah, we don't need one of those. And I'm like, how about a legal guy? Does anybody to tell us? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, what's your game experience? And they're like, yeah. And so I'm like, oh, man.
I play games.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong gamer. So, it's great to hear it all. It's great to pack it in and see why the rabbit hole came. 2025, big year ahead for Web3 gaming. The timelines, though, they're saying Web3 gaming is dead. I mean, I'm just like, all these creators, all these ecosystems, the cabals, they're all saying, hey, man, this is it. And I'm here wondering, ChatGPT, can you create a resume for me for McDonald's? Or, hey, ChatGPT, can you help me figure out how to put a down payment on a Lambo? So tell me, what is the market sentiment? What are you seeing? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely in the doldrums, but it's crazy. I mean, having gone through this now, I mean, we started in 2021 building in Solana, and we've already been through one of these crazy ups and downs. So, it's funny seeing people freak out or go up or go down, because we wrote it to $8 and we saw the crash of FTX. And so it's like, this is yet another cycle. I think there's quite a few things maybe different. There was just so much VC money being poured into game development investments, thinking that Web3 gaming was going to take off. And you look around and there's just really not many people still standing. And so I'm proud that that's us, but at the same time, it's like we often need help. Like we all sort of expected that the Web3 gaming would catch on more. and there'd be more sort of players hanging out in this world. And for the most part, like, who's left? It's kind of the gamblers and the speculators. And so it's still on us to keep building audience ourselves. And I don't think it's ever dead. I think a lot of the grifters are gone. I think a lot of the, fervor is gone, and it's going to take somebody really kind of cracking the code, a smart team, a small team, not a $800 million VC backed team, but somebody else that will maybe bring it to the forefront. But I don't know. I'm still like bullish on some of the core ideas of how Web3 can really revolutionize how we make games and how we play them. But I think some of the promises that were made were way out of whack, and so it's, the water has found its level a little bit here.
Yeah, I think you make some great points there, right? And I think that for me, when I came into the space, I said this is a 10 to 15 year trajectory that I see like technology emerging till its full potential, right? As history has shown us in other markets and other emerging markets. And, somehow that got sped up in the past 3 or 4 years, that games should be developing at a faster pace. Yeah. But we are in a pivotal year where I believe there's several games that are saying that they are going to be releasing their full game. AAA games from 2021, 2022 that had this big VC funding that had been building for 3 or 4 years. So I am excited to see, hey, does this open up the door? Like, does this say to Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Epic, everybody on the sidelines watching us and saying, I finally get what they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. I understand what they were trying to build. Now that I could play, see it, and see how it works, do they now say, hey, let's adopt the marketplace? That makes a lot of sense. The payment rails, the rewards, hey, great way to incentivize players. I think we are definitely at a pivotal year. Love to understand, like, where you think, like, is there still something that Web3 gaming is missing that you think maybe you guys have cracked that code? Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you guys were like, we broke through and we were like, man, this is a great case study?
Yeah, I mean, where I think it's going, you're totally right. There's a lot of sink or swim candidates right now that have, come through and they've spent 3 or 4 years in dev and they're going to launch. And if they catch fire, great for everyone. If they, go to zero, which that's the hard part. Most games do. Like, I mean, it's nothing different about Web2 or Web3 in that respect. Making a game that has traction and acquires users and grows is like, 1 out of 100. Or 1 out of 1,000. It's very hard. So I hope one of them nails it, though. Of course, I hope Off the Grid just rips to, or one of them, blows up, because then it'll be easier for me to raise funds and capture users, right? But for us, I mean, I think what I think we're good at as a team is really trying new things and being small and sort of being nimble. And I think some of the things that we did with Photo Finish in terms of, getting a really repeatable, sustainable gameplay loop where the players are really stuck with us for 2 years now. They're playing every day for years and years and years. And the retention of this game is, higher than any game I've ever seen. And the monetization is higher than any game I've ever seen. So it's like, though we are sort of a niche, it's horse racing and it's, there's all this sort of ownership and breeding and hardcore stuff. It's like, that's where I felt maybe the blend of that Web3 audience is. It's kind of financialized. It blends the gameplay. The economy is sort of part of the gameplay. And so I think that's some areas that we really hit well. But there's a lot of learnings. There's so many more. What do I think Web3 is doing? I wish there would be more games like ours, not horse racing, but like, really maybe smaller scope of like of a niche. I think like there's plenty of shooters, there's plenty of AAA, there's plenty of third person. Like, I don't want to compete with Fortnite. I don't want to compete with CSGO. I'd rather someone try something new and different,
I mean, I look at like the casino business very much. I think that the model there works. It works for them. Yeah. And I think that if I look at like the overall how casinos have expanded, right? From the lottery business as well, to now DraftKings, to the way that sports betting is, right? That's really taking off in the past 3 to 5 years. Yeah. So people have always had that tendency to gamble, let's just say, or to, risk it for the biscuit, right? Yeah. And I think that for what you guys have built is really unique because that market is very lucrative. That market loves that kind of things. Oh, yeah. And you combine also, I think, horse betting, horse racing, all of that is a market that very much we all stop. Even people that don't know anything about horse racing will tune in and say, who's the favorite? Who's going to win it? The Triple Crown, all that stuff. So I think like, man, you guys hit a market like very, very perfectly. Now, I think that we are definitely figuring out what regulation looks like. And I think that hopefully this year we get some sort of guideline at least so that we're not always stepping on like eggshells, right? Like tiptoeing around it. I do think that DraftKings and all the sports betting has led the path for us to actually really find a way to piggyback or tail on what that's built to say, hey, this isn't any different. If anything, we are helping it with more transparency as the blockchain is here to make sure you avoid any kind of funny business. And so I'm really excited to see what that year comes. Photo finish 2025. What are the features this year that you're really looking forward to keep expanding, to keep bringing users, the retention, everything that you guys are building for?
It's a really exciting year for us. We just raised a round as well, and so a lot of the things are hopefully lining up to be a very great point here. And you can look at our first 2-3 years was really obviously chewing a lot of glass, learning how to build a Web3 token, all that stuff, right? We've been learning, but the game is solid and the players love it. And that part we continue to really push hard on, making sure that, we are delighting our user base every day and making sure they're engaged. But what's great now is that there are races going on in photo finish in every hour of every day, every 5 minutes, basically. There's just a race going off. So we've got this really living, breathing ecosystem that has evergreen game mechanics that can last forever. So the big part we're adding is what we call the OTB. And so now anyone in the world will be able to actually bet on these races. So we've got this content engine, running 24/7. And the big change will be that now anyone can bet on those on their Roku. It's all it's all smart contract on Solana, permissionless, decentralized, stuff. So that's the big launch for us that we're starting to kind of beta test now. It'll be hopefully around the Kentucky Derby is when we'll actually unveil a few tests of it. But that's sort of the point, that you could go to any bar, restaurant, they're going to put on the OTB stream. They're going to get a little bit of a payment when people are betting on it. It's sort of what Web3 could really enable. This sort of like a lot of people are at having a stake in the whole game. So that's really the big push for us this year.
If my boss is watching this video, I'm telling you right now, during the Kentucky Derby, I'm taking the time off because I'm going to be playing photo finish. And it's great to hear that. I love that, the way you're really thinking about this. It's very much well thought out into making sure you're marketing at the right time as well and making sure that the product is there for what they are. I love that the ability to, I think the ability to make sure that users, but also the users that are spectating and the users that are using it all kind of have a piece of the pie, right? And I think that's really, really important in Web3 because if I switch over to esports, right? That esports system is broken in a way. And I think Web3 solves that. But I think Web3 solves it in what you just built as well, because it could be a very similar model of, hey, the bar should be getting a piece and not paying into them watching it. The casino business as well, hey, there's a way to really expand to other continents, other countries, other users, bring more liquidity, bring more of the aspect, bring cultures together, bring the fun into all of this. And so I think that prize pool gets bigger and bigger. And I always say this, at the casino, doesn't market the guy, with $1 and losing it. The casino always does is the jackpot. And I think the jackpot here is really, really cool. And it's a unique selling opportunity for Web3 and the technology behind it. So I got to ask now, and I got to space forward here. Solana. What made you choose Solana? What was it that, that you were saying, hey, if I'm going to build this, I need to choose a chain that has the ability to perform with what I have a grand vision for?
Yeah, when we first started evaluating, moving into or trying, basically prototyping in Web3, we of course started on Ethereum. And I had been relatively, interested in Ethereum. I had mined ETH and my CTO and I both were like, well, we got to be on the main chain, And then we did our first test of some horses minted and it cost, $800. or something, in gas fees at the time. And I was like, absolutely not. Like this doesn't make any sense. Who's going to do this? And so around that time, we were kind of lucky because Zedrun had been doing well on ETH, and people started catching wind that we were bringing our IP, into the world. And so all of a sudden, like every chain started trying to, court us to join. And so out of nowhere, I get 12 meetings with every single ecosystem trying. Oh, we need a horse racing game. We need a horse racing game. And I'm like, oh well, okay. So I took meetings with every one of them. I mean, this is all of them from Dapper and Flow to Polygon to Immutable, whoever. And I met with Solana, and I'd never heard of it. And I met with Colleen, and I just immediately it seemed like he got it. He understood my plight and what we needed as developers. It was just starting to catch a little fire, like in an NFT land. I think like the monkey business had just happened. It was very early. And I just thought, well, this guy really gets it, but this is pretty early. This technology is really rough, and so he's like, how about you jump on a call, get in a Slack with Toli? And so we do. Like within that week, we get on a call with Anatoly, and I just was like, finally someone who gets it. And every other call that we had, it was very academic. It was very ethereal. What's going to be the case? Even though the costs were atrocious, they're all like, oh, this roadmap, this, that. Whereas Anatoly, you could just tell like he lived and breathed like the cheapness, the optimization, the speed. And so it was just kind of like, all right, let's try with these guys. And I really never was married to it, but now like as we spent the time going through, it's like this is still the best, And so then the loyalty grew. We were always trying to think of the game as like we didn't care. We thought of it as a underlying database that the user should never care. But over time, I really have grown loyal and fiercely loyal to some of the things. And of course, then that's when I get upset when they do things that are dumb or that are good or that are wrong. But I'm just, it's really been, fun to build in the ecosystem with a leadership team like Anatoly and Colleen and Raj that I think understand and get it in a very like functional way, not in a academic white paper way.
Yeah, I'll say this: they're true leaders in the space. I like to always refer to my conversations with Toli of, he's a very leader founder that always asks, what do I need to do to help you? What do I need to do to help you grow? And I think those are very powerful questions that are asked by a leader because it truly shows that like, hey, he knows he needs to work with everybody. He knows he needs to make sure that you are also happy with what's happening, right? Yeah. And I think it's very important, some of these few things that we don't have enough in the space of true leadership and founders that, understand that it's the team effort as well to help build this. 2025, we talked about, photo finish. We talked about Solana. You're here at GDC. What is it here this week that you're like trying to accomplish? Is it somebody you're meeting or you met with that you're like, this is what I came for? Talk to other partners, expand the business. What's on the roadmap or calendar for this week?
Yeah, I mean, I did meet with our seed round investors, London Venture Partners. We had a big happy hour thing, and it was great to meet a bunch of other founders in the portfolio there, and just around that circle, and then of course immediately intros to other founders and people like that. So that was a good start. I went to quite a few talks themselves, like actual technical talks or panels, just trying to see what's new in Unity or what's new in AI 3D generation, and so I always try to. I live and breathe the game dev, and I love being hands-on. I'm not like a hardcore business guy. I'm a builder, and so that's my favorite part is to go around and see and the Unity talk I sat in was like in the weeds. How do you improve frame rate by changing your render pipeline? And so I was like, oh, I ate that up. So, and then, I went to every night, had some party, every morning had some meetings, just all across the board. But I've been in the industry so long at this point that it's always a blast to just catch up with and find the people that are. He worked with that guy for 5 years. We're all 1 degree separated, so you always, oh yeah, you worked with Steve Chang, and and we end up hanging out for an hour. And so I don't know what I'm trying to accomplish is typically something like this is really just kind of put faces to names sometimes on a lot of people I haven't met in person, and then maybe close a few cool relationships on partners, whether it's from external art there's some outsourcing people. There were some great options for people that do localization, and so yeah, just kind of all over the whole industry.
Yeah, localization I think is such an important thing, right? I think it's very important to understand different cultures, especially for the type of business that you are in. I think it's very important to be able to market to the right cultures and make sure you market in the cultures that accept it as well. And so, calendar year outside of GDC, what else are you have on? Is it GamesCon? Is it Web3 events? Is it Web2 events? Like, where do you see yourself? Like, how does the photo finish keep expanding? Maybe it's a Kentucky Derby. Like, maybe you guys have a booth there, right?
Yeah. We are an official license holder of the Kentucky Derby. I think we're the only game in the world.
Wow.
And we've been doing that for 2 years. So this year, I think we're going to go and have kind of a real VIP experience for our players, and some like special events. Go around shooting gallery and bourbon tasting. All of the like real fancy VIP things there at Churchill. And then we've got later in May, there's an SBC, which is like a world kind of iGaming gambling symposium. We'll be a part of that. Gamescom I'll probably go to, just mainly because our investor has a big setup there. And then we'll try and figure out if we do something with Breeders' Cup, or we try to like mix in with some of the real horse racing events as well as our own stuff, and just go through there. But yeah, it's sort of always a mix of game stuff and horse racing and gambling. It's all sort of.
If this video doesn't go out, it's because Ian didn't invite me to the Kentucky Derby. So this is a way to force him to make sure he sends an invitation, because I need to be there as well. Look, I think that's really cool. I love that you're approaching this and understanding where the users are. It's important to make sure that you know where your users are and how to connect them to what you're building. Something often missed in Web3 gaming, and talking the right language to the user so that, hey, these are games. Let me make sure you're playing.
It's hard. I mean, this industry in Web3 is just you can easily get blinded because you get a bunch of users, but often they are going to jump to the next thing. They're speculators, and so it's hard to like. Were those real people? I had 20,000 people show up on my site yesterday. Were those? And then they vanish because they're farming or they're doing something else. So that like capturing of this big audience that kind of moves around project to project is new, and I don't think anyone's really figured it out. But it's even the big names in the space are those users will go away. So it's interesting.
No, it definitely is. Look, you're a veteran, 25 years here in San Francisco, veteran at GDC. When you come to this city, is there anything that you, outside of GDC, say to yourself, man, I have to have that In-N-Out burger, I got to go run on the Golden Gate Bridge? Is there anything here that you're exploring as well?
I mean, not too much. I've seen most of the sites in all the years that have had to come to various stuff. EA Redwood was here while I worked at EA. But today was my first time to ride in the driverless Waymo car.
Okay.
So that was like something I was like, I got to do it. And I took one here. It's a 35-minute drive, and I just sat, chill, silence. It played like spa music almost the whole way. It was like, yeah, that was awesome.
My issue is before I came here, my family was like, oh, you're going to try the Waymo? And I was like, yeah, we'll see it. And then I started looking up Waymo on my Instagram. And so the algorithm started pulling up Waymo, but it started pulling up the Waymo memes.
Oh, no.
And so I started seeing like when the 4 cars come to the stop sign and then like none of them go because they don't know which one needs to go first. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, what if this happens to me and I miss a meeting?
I saw a guy like this morning, I saw one just get trapped in the middle of an intersection and didn't know what to do, but it eventually kind of like there was a cop behind it that started honking and it started to go. I was like, does it react to honking?
I think it's got like 13 cameras or something on it. So like I'm assuming something gets activated, or I'm sure the guy in the back seat finally sends a text message, hey, you gotta go.
Yeah. My best story last night, actually, it happened. It was a very San Fran story. So I went to dinner with a bunch of old like game dev friends and hung out for a few hours, had some drinks and all that. And so I grabbed a Lime scooter home to the hotel. And I'm only about 100, 200 feet from the hotel. And I've got my phone out and I hit a bump. And so my phone like flies out of my hand. So I'm like, oh crap, So I pull the Lime scooter over and park it and run back to grab my phone. And when I do, a homeless guy jumps on the Lime and takes off. And not only that, he turned around and picked up a girl on the bench, and they just took off. And I'm like furiously trying to cancel it. And I did get it closed, but I was like, that's some San Fran stuff right there.
That is
I mean, it was immediate. Like he just was waiting for someone to roll up on a lime, and he just jumped on it.
Oh man, that is a San Fran story, definitely. Ian, I gotta give you a cup, man. If you're gonna go to the Kentucky Derby and you're gonna be trying all these whiskeys and whatnot, bourbons, whatever you're into, right? You have to stay liquid. So this is the official cup of the Creator House. Not only do you have to stay liquid in the market, but you have to stay liquid in real life.
That's true.
And you have to make sure you're hydrated while you're out there. Ian,
I appreciate it.
tell me, last final thoughts. Where do we find Photo Finish? How do we follow? What should we get involved? Tell the users, the people watching right now, where is it? What's the alpha?
Yeah, the alpha. I mean, obviously, we've been out for many years. There's an absolutely amazing community behind Photo Finish at this point. I mean, the game wouldn't exist without them. So you typically just start at photofinish.live. You can sign up for free. It's just an email. It doesn't require any crypto stuff, enter crypto knowledge, and you immediately get a free horse that you can start to race. And then it's a huge rabbit hole from there. You know, if you want to learn how to breed or sell or buy or race or any of those things, you can obviously read all of the stuff on the site. You can watch the videos, or you can jump in the community. And I mean, these are folks that have become now lifelong friends. They've met in person many times. We've gone to the Derby together many times. So there's a lot of camaraderie in this sort of world of, you don't have to know anything about horse racing. The majority of the players actually don't. When I was at the Derby with them last year, I was teaching them what trifectas are. They didn't have any idea. They're just people that like sports, like betting, like poker. You know, that's the type of people that we typically attract. And it's a great community. Like I said, it's something to do, especially now that Pump Fund has kind of come down. Now that the dust has settled, it's a lot more fun to play, have a horse, run once a day and chill. So, yeah.
All right, Ian. Well, I'll see you at the Kentucky Derby.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you're going to send the invite after this.
Yep.
Make sure that we're there together. We'll make sure we capture content while we're at the Kentucky Derby. We'll place our bets and everything.
Yeah.
But really appreciate you coming down to the Creator House. We're excited to showcase this to the Solana folks, everybody that's watching in gaming, and it's all gaming on Solana. That's the new narrative. So make sure you're following as well, gaming on Solana. That's it for today's episode. You got Ian with Photo Finish. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Until the next one.